So in the short term, I think we're still discovering how bad it's going to be. The winners so far, of course, have been anything but wrong. Some of the most successful startups were founded in the most challenging times.
疫情还在蔓延，它给全球经济带来的短期冲击是不可避免的。但是从长期来看呢，或许我们不需要太沮丧。就像我们请到的全球化智库高级评论员 Andy 所说呢，全球经济它是有一个自身的调节性能，所以即便是面对突发性的危机，它也会迸发出独特的生命力。
We see hotels, airlines, restaurants are closing down. How do you think this is going to impact the global economy in the long term? How can we try and reduce the negative impact on the global economy?
If we think about the global economy like the human body, that airlines, all of these transport systems, whether we're talking about the movement of people or the movement of goods, is the circulatory system. So once that stops, of course, I think the impact will be very, very negative. So in the short term, I think we're still discovering how bad it's going to be. In the long run, though, I think the global system is incredibly resilient and that adaptations will be made. This is a driver of innovation as well. So whether we look at the boom in mobile video conferencing, like we're doing now, so there will be, of course, sectors that benefit. But I think also, as new procedures and measures are taken, that the forces of globalization are at the root economic. And there's too much to be gained from a globalized system, but we still have to get through this short-term pain. And this reminds me of what Jack Ma said about the growing Alibaba in the early days. He said, today is bad, tomorrow will be worse, the day after will be even worse, but the day after that will be beautiful. And I think that we'll see something similar with this pandemic and its impact on the global economy.
Now, you keep a close eye on technology and innovation. How do you think this pandemic is going to affect people's everyday life going forward?
And certainly, just like anyone that's lived through any sort of major crisis, whether it was the stock market crash of '29 and the following depression, 9/11, that these really shape generations' perceptions, habits, attitudes. I think, again, this is where China has done an incredible job. And what I was impressed by was the level of detail paid to making sure that this was a well-managed process. And a lot of that is, of course, related to technology. So there are apps that you have to scan, etc. So I think that this use of technology for contact tracing, other ways of quickly identifying the kind of outbreak. South Korea, of course, has been a leader in this area as well. So I think we will see these kinds of systemic changes that will be less visible, but perhaps just as important, if not more important.
What kind of businesses do you think face the biggest challenge, and what kind of businesses do you think will survive and perhaps do well because of this pandemic?
Right now, the businesses that have been hit the hardest are the ones that directly depend on moving people. So airlines, of course, I think have been shut down. I think that, for instance, US air traffic is down more than 90%. The hotel industry in general has been very hard hit as well. So I think anything that is reliant on travel has suffered greatly. Any of these businesses that rely on people moving around, whether that's internationally or across cities, or even within the city, have been hurt very badly. The winners so far, of course, have been anything online, the video conferencing platforms. I think in China, e-commerce, the takeaway of food delivery places have done well as well. But of course, that brings its own challenges. Because when you think about all of the people going online, that results in network degradation. It might even make systems crash. So it presents operational problems. So that doesn't mean that this is entirely a positive, but clearly the companies that are in the PPE, the personal protection equipment business, have seen perhaps the opportunity for a kind of windfall profits. Of course, again, if their supply chains are able to be maintained, if they're able to produce, there's an enormous market. But, I've worked in venture capital and private equity and worked with startups. Some of the most successful startups were founded in the most challenging times. So I think that from a longer term cyclical perspective, we ought to see some game-changing world-class companies come out of this crisis.